seeing there were starfish all over the beach that had gotten out of the water, and he picked up one and threw it in the water, and this man said, "You can't save all of them." He said, "I just saved that one." So, yeah, we're not going to save everybody, but these folks are making a lot of difference. Want to open it up for questions, and we don't have, I want to have time for y'all to go over to Fellowship Hall and meet with these people individually. But do we have some questions? Yes.
How is it treated if someone is a victim of trafficking? Are they charged with prostitution then if they're basically they're a slave to the trafficking? Does that make sense?
Okay, if we come across a victim of trafficking, we're going to get them the resources they need, whether it's through the landing or some of our other partners, and make sure that they have an option to get out. We have a diversion program with the DA's office called Project 180, where, you know, the first time arrest, couple arrests, they can go through a diversion program and get the help that they need to get out. However, with that being said, a lot of these women victims, after all, we've got victims of Lucina Bissonette. They've been arrested 20 plus times. Now they're recruiters. Now they're going out and working for the trafficker, getting other women. I'm not going to deny and say, hey, yeah, you know what, I'm going to hold them accountable. And I know we've had, well, you know, they were a victim of, you know, they were sexually assaulted when they were younger. They've gone through a tough life and they've gone through some stuff. And that, I understand that. But it comes to a point in time where, yes, if you refuse the help and you don't want the help, and we've offered it many times, there comes a time where, yeah, we're going to have to hold you accountable.
Could you talk briefly about the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance?
HATRA?
Yeah.
John, HATRA. That's my HATRA guru right there. So, yeah. No, our Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance is a grant that we received from the government. That's that we received from the government, and what we have over at and we're the largest one, I think, in the United States, and we're probably the busiest one. And what we have under one roof over at Midwest, which is the Midwest Patrol Station is right down the street from the landing, we have representatives, law enforcement from Harris, Montgomery, Fort Bend counties that work there. We have federal, state, and local prosecutors that work with us. You know, Department of State, Department of Family Protective Services. We have victim advocates from the YMCA. We're going to have victim advocates from the landing. We have all these folks, plus others, that work logistically, physically under one roof, but plus they're blanketed by that grant that we received money for. So when we get a call or we get an operation, we can go right into work and do that without having to do, you know, all this other stuff. So our HATRA, and I'm proud to say it, I had nothing to do with HATRA. It's the men and women that work there that do a great job. But we've had folks all over the country that want to be part. They want to know, they want to model their human trafficking units based on ours. We've had media. We're going to have the Oxygen Network down here in a couple weeks to go out with us on an operation. If you have a chance, Google Fox 26 Invisible Chains. We had them with us with our hatch operation for a week. We had Dr. Phil, who's dying to come out with us, but I'm still, you know, hanky on Dr. Phil. But that just shows that all over the country, Houston is known for just the solution. You know, we talk about the hub, but I think also that we're at the forefront of solution-based efforts to combat trafficking. That's why we're known. So that's HATRA. But if you want more information about it, that's the man to see right there.
So what questions can I ask? You know, like if I'm in a situation, if I witness something, and what can I ask without getting the person in danger, the victim in danger, or even myself in danger? What is something that I can do, or, you know, how can I take action?
You can call us, 713-308-8600. Look at that, I got the number right. But no, seriously, 24/7. We'll always have somebody on standby where you can call us. We also have the National Human Trafficking Hotline. But really, if you want to get in touch, you can call us, and we'll go out there immediately. We'll talk to you first before we just show up there. But anything, Chief's big on this, and we use it for all of our public events. See something, say something. We'd rather you be wrong with the trafficking thing 100 times than be that it was trafficking once and you didn't do anything about it. Because there's so many, and time is so critical that if you wait and say, well, maybe they were, if we hadn't gone to get that, I told you about that female that came down from Dallas. If we hadn't done that, she was headed to New York City the next morning. And so we were able to stop that. So you can call that number. You see something that's just doesn't look right, by all means, let us know.
I was just able to get here just a little while ago, so you may have already answered this question. But do you know if in our local area schools, if there are groomers that are grooming our young girls or young men?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, we had three other guests on this panel. They get some questions for these ladies, but I'm just playing. Yes, there are. We've got girls that go to school. They'll pick them up from school, take them, and then drop them back off. I mean, that's where you, as a parent, you just got to get involved. As a school administrator, you've got to know that, hey, this is happening in schools all over the city, and to bury your head in the sand and say, well, it's not happening here, or it's a topic I don't want to discuss, you can't go that route anymore. Yeah, there's there's traffickers in the schools, and there's traffickers that will go to the schools, that will work with these kids after school. It's just one of those things that as a parent, as a school administrator, I should say, you've got to get involved. So yes, we do. They're everywhere. They're at the mall, but I'm not going to create a sense of panic just know that, to be aware, cautious, put some safeguards in place, and, that's all you can do.
A question about on the labor trafficking and nail salons and massage parlors, and how do we know which ones are forced labor? What can we look for?
That's a really good question. How do we kind of start to recognize, right? Because I'm sure at least many of the women in the room, we go to nail salons, right? And so how do we start to recognize whether or not they're safe? And the first thing I'm going to tell you is that you're not going to recognize it right away. Now, if we're talking about nail salons, it's hard sometimes, right? It's subtle. That's what you've heard a lot about today. But there are some certain things that we would really encourage you to look for when you're going to these salons. Things like who's controlling the money, right? So when you tip, where is that going? Who's kind of around, right? You start kind of paying attention to who the manager is and what kind of role they're playing. If people maybe get a little fearful when they're around or stop talking, if the other employees, things like that. Those red flags that would make you say, that's interesting, or that's weird, right? It makes your gut kind of scream at you a little bit. Those are things very basic that we'd encourage you. And then something I always encourage, I get my nails done too, right? I start to talk to people. I start to talk to the technician, right? Just getting to know them, getting to know their stories, getting to know their experiences, who they are. And it's not something that a lot of people do. Sometimes they just want to run in, get your nails done, and leave. And I get it, we're all in a rush, but take that time when you have that moment with them is just talk to them. If you hear them speaking another language, ask them about it. What language is that? I've never heard that before. That's really cool. Or are you from there? What brought you to Houston? You're just getting to know them. It's very casual. But what this is going to do is really going to start to paint and give you a clearer picture of their experiences and their lives and what's going on, right? And so that might be the moment when they say something kind of interesting, right? Maybe they say something like, I don't even want to give an example because honestly, I think that would create a stereotype. But if they start to say something that makes your gut kind of question, well, that's interesting. That's not normal. Right? We all here know what's normal. We know what's right. And so when our gut starts screaming at us that something's going on, that's when we would really encourage you to take that action, right? Call HPD. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline. See something, say something. but it's really going to be subtle. And I know that's really hard. And it's hard for me because I'm originally from DC, and I had a specific salon that I went to, and I trusted, and I knew that I felt comfortable going there, especially in this field. I haven't quite found that yet, but that's really just because I'm new in Houston, and so I haven't been able to explore as much to find that comfort level. But really, it's just about taking that step to recognize that nail salons, for example, have a lot of vulnerabilities. And so what is it that we can do to mitigate that, mitigate our own actions as consumers?
Just down the street in the Calliope Center, in the corner, there was a nail salon with bars, and I would take painting classes next door. And men were going in and out of this nail salon
So some
all
other
night
red
long while I
flags.
was taking the classes. And now
So your gut started screaming at you that something was going on, right? And so some other red flags, right? So we see other things like that. So at nail salons or, these massage businesses that pop up everywhere, and they seem to be very busy at night, right? This isn't massage envy that we're walking into. And so there are certain things that we could, environmental red flags that we would encourage keeping an eye out for, like when are they busy, right? When a shop opens, if you happen to be around when one of these shops open, for example, this nail salon, did you actually see anyone go into work, right? Because when a shop opens, that usually means employees are showing up. Other security, right? So security meant to keep a person in rather than out. Buzzers on doors, things like that, where you normally shouldn't have to buzz in to go into a nail salon or to a legitimate massage business. Those types of things, right? Those are things that we would really encourage you to keep an eye out for. There's others, but really just, what's normal. You know that that's not normal, that that's not what should be expected from that type of business. And so that's the time when we would encourage you to give the National Human Trafficking Hotline a call, right? That's how we're going to find them. We see them everywhere, and we all recognize that these places exist, right? We can all point them out. But without these reports and without people saying something, without giving this information to law enforcement, for example, so that they can start these investigations, right? So that they have the information that you're seeing. That's that first step. That's what we need, is we need you to keep your eyes open and say something and report that.
So,
Sorry, I just wanted to make a quick comment about asking questions. I'm a huge advocate of asking questions. Number one, I feel like it gives that person their humanity back, right? They feel like they're invisible, they feel like they don't matter, but asking someone questions in a sincere way makes them feel human again. So that's one part of it. But when you're asking someone questions, it's ensuring that you are keeping yourself safe and them safe. So they are often in precarious situations. So as naturally as you can ask those questions, do so. If you start asking questions and what about this? And what about this? And what about this? That person's probably going to get spooked and scared, because oftentimes they're in very precarious situations and they're not going to want to answer those questions. And it can also put them in danger if their manager is there watching you ask these questions and they are answering them. It can put them in danger. So if you're asking those questions, which I encourage you to do them as casually and personably as you're able to.
so I've heard a lot of talk about the victims, and at some point maybe they need to be held accountable in the justice system. Given many chances, obviously. And I heard about the fact that it's supply and demand, and there's a bit of a shaming campaign going on, which I fully support. But, it just seems like the groomers are the root of evil. I mean, that's just, to me, I can't fathom that. And how hard is it to go after those people and identify those, and how successful are we being in bringing those people to justice?
Let's answer that one.
Does everybody know the definition of groomers? Does everybody know the definition of groomers when she says groomers? The people who spot people and slowly get them the way they want them for that type of thing.
Yes, when it comes to the traffickers, we We're big. We're holding the DA's office accountable. We had a case in point. Was it United or American? It doesn't matter. It was a pilot from a major airline. He was running brothels all over the city at office parks. He got probation. So, that sort of was all this work, all these months and months of investigative work, and this guy gets nothing. Yeah. So we're holding the DA's office accountable to this point. We've got another trafficker that we arrested the other day and got a $1,500 bond, which all he has to do is come up with $150. So I'm sort of like, really? Might as well not even give him a bond. But those are the names that we find out, and the chief's holding the DA's office accountable. And it's not just the DAs, there are judges too. There's judges out there, so I'm not pointing the finger, just DAs, judges, but we're holding the prosecutors and the judges accountable, because if that's what's happening, then they're not taking the human trafficking aspect seriously. So we tell our folks, hey, keep the list of names of the judges, and then chief's going to get out there and rattle them off. And yeah, you're going to be held accountable for some of these sentences you're giving these traffickers.
I know we could continue with this quite some time, but I do want to give everyone the opportunity to go over to the fellowship hall, and we're going to have some people out there to direct you over there. It's just kind of over in that direction. You can talk to these people individually. You should have an evaluation, should have been given one when you came in. Please take a few minutes before you leave this evening and drop it in one of our bins. We've got a bin over on the other side. I really thank you all for coming. I think these folks have given us some great ideas. This is just a beginning, but at least we were all interested enough to be here and be aware. And I'd like to, one more thing. If you feel so moved to donate to one of these groups, I'm sure they can give you some information over there that will show you how to get in touch with them to donate to these worthy causes. Thank you.